I think one of the biggest challenges is perception, being seen as equal, capable, knowledgeable, and qualified in luxury spaces. I've learned that success in real estate isn't just about experience and results.
Hi, welcome to Pamela Price Unfiltered. I'm your host, Pamela Price, and this is the space and the place for real talk. This podcast season is sponsored by the Eloise Real Estate Group. Eloise Middleton is more than a licensed real estate professional. She is a miracle worker. With over 20 years' experience in the Bay Area real estate market, she specializes in residential real estate, single family, and income properties, including luxury homes, probate trust sales, first time home buyers, and investors. Their motto is selling real estate is what we do, service is who we are. If you are in the market for residential real estate, call Eloise Middleton at 510 386 0547. This podcast is also sponsored by Lawyers for the People. Lawyers for the People represents clients who have suffered serious injuries or death from police or negligent jail deputies and medical staff. Lawyers for the People was founded by Adante Pointer and Patrick Bullner, two former associates of the law office of John L. Burris. They believe in using the law as a sword and a shield for their clients. They handle personal injury, civil rights, employment discrimination, jail abuse, and police brutality cases all over California. They don't just talk about results, they get them. Call them at 510 617 1938 for a free case evaluation. This season is also sponsored by the Shukla Law Firm, a leading San Francisco law firm that advocates for employee rights. Attorney P. Bobby Shukla is the 2024 San Francisco Trial Lawyers Association Trial Lawyer of the Year with a winning record against major corporations and government agencies for harassment, discrimination, retaliation, whistleblowers, and pay equity. When you need a trusted advocate to get your voice heard and want action, call the Shukla Law Firm at 415-847-3983. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about it. My special guest today on Pamela Price Unfiltered is my dear friend Eloise Middleton and one of the show's sponsors. Eloise is the 10th of 14 children and was raised in North Carolina. Over 30 years ago, while on vacation, she fell in love with the Bay Area and decided to stay. She has been a realtor since 2004 and a realtist since 2010. With over 20 years' experience in the Bay Area market, Eloise specializes in residential single family and income properties, including luxury homes, probate, trust sales, first time home buyers, and investors. Her motto is selling real estate is what we do, service is who we are. Eloise, welcome to Pamela Price Unfiltered.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Honorable Pamela Price. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Well,
And
we're excited to have you. So, Eloise, tell us about your journey from North Carolina to the Bay Area.
so I came here to visit, and I was walking down West Oakland, and I thought I could live here. I said, I could live here. And so I decided to go home, tell my parents and my family I was going to move to California, and they thought I was crazy because I knew only knew one person here at the time. But 1 year later, I moved here in 1987, and I started my own little family. I brought my son Kendrick with me, and I've been here ever since. I love it, and I was working in corporate America until that fell apart, but I started real estate soon after that.
So, tell my audience, though, what were some of the lessons learned being from a family of 14 children?
What lessons learned? You can't be afraid. You have to be focused and determined. Coming to California alone was a task, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just kept coming and kept doing and kept working. I worked for AT&T. I worked for the Tribune as a receptionist. And then I got a full-time job working for American President Lines, and I was there 15, 16 years.
Okay, I remember APL in Oakland. That's great. So tell my audience your current mission, and your focus is on luxury homes. So tell us about the luxury home market in the East Bay. What does that look like?
Well, it's the luxury home market is just like any other market, except that you have to make sure you price the homes right. I live in Montclair, and so I have been selling homes in Crocker Highlands, Berkeley Hills, Oakland Hills, and it's interesting sometimes when people walk into a listing and they see a Black woman and they go, "Oh, hi." I'm like, "Oh." Like, okay, hi, hi. And so it's been a challenge sometimes, but I think that we're coming around. And my goal is to make sure that the luxury market is open to each and every agent out there, not just uh, one or another, but everybody.
Okay. So even in the liberal Bay Area, the progressive Alameda County, you're telling us that it's a challenge?
It is definitely a challenge. I think one of the biggest challenges is perception, being seen as equal, capable, knowledgeable, and qualified in luxury spaces. I've learned that success in real estate isn't just about experience and results. Sometimes it's about how people perceive you and who's supposed to be in this market.
Wow.
They don't mind you selling the house and the flats as long as you don't entertain the hills of Oakland. So I think that we have to change that narrative, and that's what I'm trying to do.
What have been some of your most challenging experiences
My
selling
most my
luxury
most
homes?
recent story is I was contacted by a homeowner, someone I knew, and to represent her and selling her Montclair house. And I was honored, just tickled pink to do it. But during the process, she questioned every vendor I sent her. And one of my jobs is to make sure that you have people to clean your house, clean it out, do everything, stage it, all of that. I provide all of those services. And everybody I recommended, she denied. Uh, and eventually she decided not to use me, which is fine. That's fine. But what she said to me during that process was, "I don't know how many homes you've sold in Montclair." And I
Wow.
thought, really? What
Uh,
does Montclair? I live here and you're asking me that? It doesn't matter if I've sold homes in Rock Ridge and Crocker Highland and Upper Rock Ridge, Berkeley Hills, Oakland Hills. And what's so special about where I live that I'm not able to sell here, that I don't qualify? So I realized this, that it wasn't about the number of years, it was how she perceived it. She didn't perceive me as being someone that could sell her house and get her the price that she wanted. However, the next listing that I got 38% over the list price in the Oakland Hills. And so I just wanted to let people know, if somebody says no, the next person may say yes.
so what does it mean to be a realtist?
A realtist is in 1947, there was a group of people from Florida, 12 women and one male. They decided that since we were not allowed to use multiple listing services uh, functions, we were not allowed to be a member of the National Association of Realtors, that they would start their own trade business and organization. And so they decided, at that day, it was July 1947, that they started the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So that meant that we had access, now we had access to listings online. We had, not online, but on paper. Uh, we were not allowed to join I can't even believe it, 1947, that we were not allowed to join the National Association of Realtors, which takes everybody's money, right? But they were not allowing African Americans to join that organization. And that's why we started the NAREB, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB.
I can believe it. I mean, think about 1947. Redlining was still very much a part of the lending and the real estate market. And so, of course, they would not want African Americans to have access or equal access to the resources or the information to be able to actually, participate in the real estate market unhindered.
I know.
Yeah. So, how has being a realtist impacted our community, and what have realtors done in our community?
Well, the purpose of National Association of Real Estate Brokers is to enhance the professional and business conditions of NAREB Realtors members by strengthening the consumer capacity of Black, minority, and emerging target market segments that realtors serve, utilizing economic, political, legal, and social leverage. We are working to re-eliminate disparity and discriminatory in the housing and the property ownership policies. So we are in the White House. We are part of the people who are making at the at the at the table. NAREB is at the Black Caucus. They're talking. They're getting things done, and that's why we have a HUD. If it wasn't for NAREB, we would have no HUD.
Wow. And how has impacted how has redlining impacted? Have you seen how it's impacted our community? I mean, one of my seminal books, which I tell everyone to read, is The Color of Law, which talks about the historical progress and formation of the Bay Area. But how do you see the shadows of that, or is it still very much a part of the reality of real estate?
It's not called redlining, but it's still there. The fact that we do not have access to the monies to get houses and to buy houses, because now the average house in Oakland is about $500,000. A condo is $399,000. So I think that even though we have access to a lot of things, we don't have access to properties. The gap is just too wide. And so we're still trying. And right now, I sit on the legislative committee for Associated Real Properties Brokers, which is the local chapter here in Oakland. And we're trying to talk to Oakland council people about how we can buy some of the properties or how they can help us with properties that are vacant here in Oakland so that we can help with the housing for the unhoused. Because that's one of the things, if we can get housing, we don't have to have as many homelessness because we have young people out there who are working but can't afford to buy a house.
Right, right. Our housing crisis, not in the Bay Area, but especially in Oakland, is acute, and it is a lack of resources and access to the financial wherewithal.
Right.
Tell us about some of the statistics. I know that you are very much on top of some of the stats around real estate and sales and things in the East Bay. Tell us about that.
Well, I work mainly in Oakland, and so I decided to run some stats on the zip code because real estate is local, neighborhood, Pacific, and zip code driven. So we got 94611, 94605, 94619, 94612. So you have to go through the zip codes. So right now, the average house in Oakland is about $900,000. We only have 3 months of inventory, which means that it's still a seller's market. And people want to say, oh, it's a buyer's market. Well, it's not a buyer's market necessarily in all of the neighborhoods. So wherever, it depends on where you're living and where you're selling and where you want to buy. So I tell people, look at all of the neighborhoods that you would like to live in, and then let's run the numbers and see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know I'm in 94605, if anybody cares, but I know that there's a house close to me that has been on the market for a little while now. It's a seller's market, but that doesn't seem to be moving. What do sellers need to understand when their property's not moving?
They need to understand that they have and may have priced it too high for that particular area at that particular time. I listed a house in the 94618, no, 19, 94619, which is the Oakland Hills. And those houses are selling for $1.8 million. But I decided with my seller to list it 30, 40% under that sales price so that I could get a lot of buyers in. We were only open 2 weekends. We got 50 people those 2 days, 50 people on Saturday, 50 people on Sunday. And the house needed a little bit of work, but not a lot, but some work, some painting, some fixing up. And we listed it for 1,300,000 or no 995, and we got 1,395.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
have to price it so you'll get more eyes on it. We have people coming from Santa Rosa, Sacramento, Stockton, everywhere to look at that house.
So there are people coming trying to move into Oakland. You've seen that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And are there more people trying to come here than are leaving? Because we're always hearing about the people leaving. Oh, so and so leaving. But there are people coming.
There are
How does
people
that
coming.
equate?
Well, we don't have enough housing here for people for the prices to go lower than what they are, even though the interest rate is higher. The average interest rate over the last 30 years is 5 to 7%. We had a COVID interest rate. That's different.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
not going to have a COVID interest rate right now because it's not COVID.
Mm.
But so I think that people have to understand if you wait longer to buy a house and you can afford to buy the house, you're going to pay more for it down the road because the prices of homes are still going up. Maybe not as much as they were, but they're still going up.
Yeah. So when you said to seller's market, that means there's a lot of buyers that are looking at these properties.
What that means is a seller's market, in order for it to be a buyer's market, we would need 6 months of inventory, and we do not have 6 months of inventory. The highest inventory we have right now in Oakland is 3.4%. So
So, what is your passion? What drives you and has driven you to make this, to have you excel so much in your profession?
I think being a farmer's daughter, uh, 'cause real estate is about farming, cultivating, and building relationships, right? So farming is planting the seed, cultivating the seed, and making sure that the seed grows. And that's the same that thing with buying and selling real estate. I didn't come into this market in real estate at a good time. It was 2004 when I got my license. By 2008, the real estate market was in a really bad place. It was hard to buy for anybody to buy real estate, and you could drive buyers around for a year and never sell a house. So I decided to be a listing agent, and I focus mainly on listings. I do work with buyers, and I have a buyer's agent that works with me, Ryan Porter, who was amazing. But I decided myself, I would focus on listings. I would work with attorneys. I was working with CPAs, and then looking at farms that produce listings over time, more listings. There are certain areas in Oakland that turn over a lot faster than others.
Mhm. What drives that, the turnover in the housing market in particular neighborhoods?
Uh, Children, schools, elementary schools. There are good elementary schools here in Montclair. So there's an area, this area produces for elementary students, and then they move somewhere else when they get to be high school students,
Oh, okay.
like Arenda, Lafayette, Piedmont.
So then they're selling their residence in that particular zip code.
Right, right.
Okay. Right. And what are some of the organizations? I know that you've been leading a number of organizations and have been acknowledged and recognized as someone who gets things done. So, what are some of the organizations you've been involved with?
So of course I'm a member of NAREB because that's the major nonprofit. And in that market, in that organization, I have been the president for Women's Council of the local chapter here in Oakland, Associated Real Property Brokers, ARPB. And from there, I have been in the trenches of being a governess for all the upcoming young ladies who become board members. I'm there as part of the other governors to guide them and help them with getting building relationships with bankers and lenders and those kinds of things, because the way we operate is we have to help young people understand you don't need 20% down to buy a house. We have lending institutions out there will give you a grant, and you don't have to pay it back unless you sell the house. Um, you're a first time home buyer, you can get a grant. You can also get down payment assistance anywhere from $7,500 to $15,000. They're out there. And there's 3.5% down programs all over the place. You just have to talk to someone who knows.
Right. Experience matters, right? Yeah, so many people don't know what they're doing in the real estate market, and you do need somebody who knows exactly what they're doing. You've also been very instrumental and established a chapter of Business Network International that I recently joined. Tell
Thank you.
everybody about BNI and
Well,
what
business
led you to form this chapter in Oakland.
Well, Business Network International has 10,000 chapters in this world. And one of the things that I didn't want to start a chapter, my husband said I should start a chapter. So I I looked at it and I said, okay, I'll do it. And what it has done, it has helped me to grow as a businesswoman, but it's also helped me to help other professionals grow their businesses, because that's what BNI is. It's a business networking breakfast that we meet every Thursday at 7 a.m. Right now, we're meeting 2 times a month in person, and the rest of those meetings are on Zoom. I decided 18 years ago to start it with my husband's suggestion, and I call people cold call, because I read a book that says no more cold calling. So I'm cold calling companies and getting people to come to the meeting. And that's how I called you. And we talked about where your next step is. And one of the things with me is I am going to make it happen one way or another. You got to be on the phones. You got to be in networking. I've recently joined Leadership Oakland, so I can even meet what does the picture look like in Oakland? Who are the players here? And so I joined Leadership Oakland, and it's really, really good. It's a really good way to know the people, get to meet the mayor, get to meet the council people, all of that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know the BNI chapter that you founded is extremely positive and energetic and so supportive of businesses, and it opens the door for people to be able to connect with other small business owners and entrepreneurs all across the Bay. And I know that our chapter is probably the most diverse chapter in Oakland, certainly, and we're one of the leading chapters in Oakland. So kudos to you, because you started it, and it's forming in your legacy. It's operating in the spirit in which you started it. So we
Thank,
really appreciate that.
thank you. I'm
Yeah.
also a Gamma Phi Delta Sorority Incorporated member, and
Oh,
I am the president of the local chapter here at Gamma Chi in Oakland. And I am also recruiting for young women. We do have an undergrad chapter in Berkeley. We have a chapter in Sacramento, and I would like to have more young women in the organization, because at this time, in this environment, in this space, we need to grow our sororities more than ever.
mhm. It's true. Young women especially need places where they can be mentored, where they can be supported and guided. We certainly have seen a crisis for young women in the generation after you and I, that there was a crisis in self-esteem, a crisis in self-confidence, a crisis of self-knowledge. Too many people got into different activities that we won't describe here, but that were diminishing of women and derogatory of women, and the kinds of names and things that we were called in the music business and the expectation. I mean, one of my sheroes is C. Dolores Tucker, who warned us, back in the 80s, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad for women. The way that this music is going and the way that women are being described and demeaned in the lyrics, this is going to be bad for us. And it has done nothing to advance, women's rights and women's self-esteem and women's place in the society. So certainly you're absolutely right. We need the sororities, we need organizations that are looking to advance the interest of women of all races and ethnicities, and wherever you come from. I mean, one of the women's groups that I loved in Alameda County is the Afghan Women's Book Club, and they're very supportive of Afghani women in the Bay Area. It's a critical organization. So
That's
in
good.
the one of the things you've taken on recently, you've talked about helping people is helping young women escape the life of sex trafficking. Can you talk about what your plans are for that?
I am working with Turntable and looking at Love Never Fails, wanting to partner with them so we can reach the women and at least adopt one or two as a sorority, and whether they need clothing, apartments, or painting. And because I have BNI at my fingertips, we can actually ask them to volunteer their services to help these young women get into a place once they find a place. And that's what I'm working with. I'll be meeting with a young lady named Robin about that as well, because I really am. I've been pulled into it because I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes, which I'd never really seen it except on TV. And when
Mm,
you see it in person, you're like, oh my goodness. And I met two young ladies right outside my office on Telegraph. I thought, wow, this is really getting to be too much. And I actually told them that they should go home and help them get there. I took them to the BART station to, to help them get back home. But
mm,
it's really bad. And we cannot in this city act like it's not happening.
right.
Just like, oh no, I don't see it. Oh no. If you see something, you need to help try to do something about it.
That's right. That's right. And you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, Oakland does have the distinction of being at the last count, which was some time ago, the third largest hub for sex trafficking in the country,
Wow.
in the whole United States. We're number three, and we're not doing enough about it. And that was some time ago, the way that it has spread and the lack of attention to it. And there's been a lot of attention. I mean, there have been a lot of nonprofits, and some government agencies dealing with it, but the problem is so immense and it's $1 billion industry. And so what we're doing is literally a drop in the bucket. And so your effort and the effort of your sorors, and people who want to join in supporting that is much, much needed, much, much needed. And you're right, too many people don't recognize it until they drive through the areas where it's just out in the street. But we know it's not limited to one area, and it's not limited to the street. It's happening behind closed doors. It is modern day slavery,
Hmm.
and we need to do more to address it. So thank you for that effort, and we look forward to hearing more about that. What are some of the other activities that you've been leading, Miss Eloise?
What have I been leading? Other than that, I think I do lead um, business financial literacy. With the
Yes, through
Women's Council, we target schools as well. We have children that are in high school looking at real estate as a profession, because in the back in the day, it wasn't something people talked about, and we never thought about it. So we get grown and we decide, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to college, or what am I going to do after that? There are more graduates, real estate professionals than just in anywhere else as well. So I think financial literacy is something that they didn't tell us, and they didn't tell women particularly, about how to budget, how to start looking at how you can buy a house, that whole process. So we have counselors with HUD who meet with us. We can do these programs online now. You don't even have to go into an office to get the class done. You can do it online every Saturday, 2 Saturdays a month, and get your certificate and you can get a down payment assistance just by doing that.
Wow. Wow. And that's a HUD program.
That's a HUD program.
And I know that you are also a faithful member of Cornerstone Baptist.
I am a faithful member of Cornerstone Missionary Baptist Church, where I sing in the choir, and I also facilitate a Bible class on Sunday mornings at 9:30, which I enjoy and have. It's amazing when people get it, when the light bulb goes on, and they act, you can tell they're thinking and that it actually registered. You're like, oh, they got it. They got what it says. Because reading the Bible is confusing. And if you don't study it on a regular basis, you just won't get it. And so I believe, and I've always thought this, that if you're going to do anything, do it to the best of your ability. Just do it.
Excellent. On that note, that's the inspiration from Miss Eloise Middleton, real estate agent extraordinaire. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your guidance and your passion for our community on Pamela Price Unfiltered. Any closing words that you want to emphasize for my audience?
I would say this. Every home that we sell, Eloise Real Estate Group, is more about the people than the property. It's about legacy, trust, and I'm grateful for every opportunity to serve the community and to represent what's possible when you lead with heart, professionalism, and purpose. And that's why I got into this business.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us on Pamela
so
Price Unfiltered.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Pamela Price Unfiltered. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please sign up as a paid subscriber to my Substack channel to read the weekly word from Pamela Price Unfiltered. Your support keeps the conversation raw and unfiltered. And you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts.